Welcome back. There are quite a few data structures that you may be asked in an interview, and we saw how many of them there are on that Wikipedia page. But luckily for you, the list isn't actually that intimidating. All you need to learn are these ones over here. These are used, I would say, 90% of the time, and this is what we're going to talk about in our course. Now, there may be specific ones within these groups, and each one of them has trade-offs. But as long as you learn these and you learn when and why you should use them, then you're going to be miles ahead of most people. It's going to be a lot of fun. Now, before we get going, I want to note one last thing. You see, each language has their own data types or built-in data types. JavaScript, for example, has numbers, strings, has booleans, which are true, false, and then some strange ones like undefined. And each language has data structures to organize these data types. So for example, in JavaScript, we have arrays and objects that we use. And they are data types. It allows us to structure and organize information such as our primitive data types, or even hold more complex ones like having an array that contains multiple objects. And we're going to talk about this in more detail, but I want to show you that we do have different languages that have different access to some data structures. You can see over here some of the other languages that we can use in this course and whether they have them available. We see that Java has arrays, has linked lists, stacks. We have priority queues and many other types. Now, does that mean that if we're using JavaScript, we can only use arrays and objects? Well, no, not really. Although these languages come with data structures built in, we can also build our own. And most languages have enough data structures and data types for us to build and create our own data structures. So if JavaScript doesn't have stacks, well, we can build one. Now, to finish this section and finally dive into our first data structure, I wanted to just remind you that we have a little map over here of what we need to know for the coding interview. Now, in this map, I have a little present emoji next to each one of the data structures that we're going to talk about. As you can see, there aren't that many of them, and many of them are quite related or are children of the other. But use this as a reference for you to just draw a map of how things are connected and what the data structures are that we're going to talk about. But let's get our hands dirty with our first data structure. I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.